Well, hello there. So, we're going to do another video of coffee with Bassquatch. So, I want to try to do these a little more often where I can just come on and do a Q&A and just talk to you guys. Instead of doing a produced video, a scripted video, or kind of anything that was planned. I want to be able to come on here and do some, just have a fun conversation, have a fun chat. So this is my sidekick, Cedar the Poochie. You can follow him on Instagram at Cedar the Poochie on Instagram. But if you guys have any questions, post them below. We're going to go through and talk anything kayak fishing related. Whether it's rigging options for the fall, whether it is kayak rigging options, fishing rigging options, anything you guys have. And we're going to do this video until my coffee is gone. So that's the best way these videos are going to work. So until I finish my coffee, we are on here chatting. So if you have questions for Cedar, he'll be happy to answer them too. So I just got back Friday from, well, technically Saturday morning. It was like 12:30 in the morning from the Paddle Sports Retailer Show in Madison, Wisconsin. Favorite fall fishing method in the kayak? No cream. I like my coffee black. Sometimes a little bit of sugar. So my favorite fall fishing. So this is a fun question for me. So I think the best fall fishing method I can give you. Now this all depends on your water clarity and your water type, your vegetation, where you're fishing. It involves a lot of variables, but I would say my go-to fall fishing bait would be my gold and brown craw-colored chatterbait from Z-Man. And I caught 3 record fish on that last year. And if you look at my profile picture on Facebook, the profile video, that video is one of the record fish I caught last year on the brown and gold chatterbait. So the chatterbait and working it really slow. You went down, buddy? Working the chatterbait really slow and having it on the bottom is probably the best fall presentation that I like. Yeah, that was a monster. That was an incredible bass. I actually had 3 or 4 of them in October. It was October of last year that were about that size, and it was, they were incredible. But there was almost all of them were on the chatterbait. So slow rolling the chatterbait, grinding on the bottom, bounce on the bottom is my favorite fall go-to bait. You got to remember that there's a huge change in the ecosystem in the water when it comes to cold water. So usually I'll use a different presentation than I use all year. I like fishing jerkbaits, dragging chatterbaits. Yep. So dragging chatterbaits is my go-to. Jerkbaits are good, but there's different kinds of jerkbaits. So coming up into the end of September, I'll have 2 jerkbaits tied on. I'll have my shallow jerkbait, my Vision, which is 0 to 3 foot, and then I'll have my 3 to 6 foot jerkbait. So they do make different depth jerkbaits. They also make jerkbaits that float and that sink. So all mine are suspending, so they all float, or they all suspend, sorry. They don't float up, they just stop wherever I stop them. So I use a 3 foot and 6 foot, depends on the water conditions. So it's really hard to see comments on here because they disappear. I have to like go back and look at them, it's weird. Another side thing. So I went to the Paddle Sports Retailer last week. I got home on Saturday. It was like a 12.5-hour drive back because I got stuck in Chicago. But at that event, it was like iCast, but for kayaks only. So it wasn't open to the public. It was for retailers only. And what was really cool about it is it was a lot more relaxed than iCast. So I got to go in the water and try everything out. Wacky Fisherman, I said, what's up? What's up, dude? Sorry, dude, I can't see your comments right away. As soon as the comments pop up on the screen, they disappear. So if I don't see them immediately, then I have to go back and look at them. So sorry, Mike. What's up, dude? So I got to try out a lot of boats this year that I didn't normally, or wouldn't normally get to try out. I know it's you, Mike Clark. Who else would be called the Wacky Fisherman? So I got to try out, there's 3 boats that I was really excited to try out. I was excited to try the Bonafide kayak, the Blue Sky paddle boat kayak from Jackson, and the Three Waters kayak from Feel Free. I got to try all three of them out for quite a while, and they were awesome. The Blue Sky was cool. It had a swivel seat, so I got to spin around. I did a live video on Facebook on that one. That was a really cool feeling. It was like being in a paddle boat, but you had the swivel seat of a bass boat, and you could walk around on the whole platform. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. The Bonafide was good. The Bonafide was really stable. I wasn't a huge fan of the way it paddled, but in any kayak, you trade stability for speed. You trade a lot of stuff. What's up, Michael Sprader? How you doing, man? So when you go for a wider kayaks, the more stable they are, usually you have trade-offs. So I'm not dogging the Bonafide at all. I'm sure it's an awesome kayak for certain people, and it's going to be a very good kayak for the market. Wasn't for me as far as the paddle experience went, but it was super stable. I actually have a video that I'll be doing very soon, and I'll be able to show you guys a video of it. The perch pad, yeah. So I stood up on the Bonafide like crazy. I walked around on it. I stood in the front, the back, the sides, and it was super stable. Like for stability, I really liked it. It's very comparable to the lure as far as the 13.5 goes. In the video I did a video, there was a guy I was on the water with. We raced. I was wearing a hat cam, so the point of view of the camera was on my hat. We raced head to head all the way down the little pond. And he was in a lure 13.5. I was in a Bonafide. And that's where I noticed the paddling was a little issue. The 13.5, he beat me. And I was paddling pretty darn hard there. It was close, though. It was within, like, a nose length. It wasn't a big deal. And then we switched mid-water back and forth twice. So we hopped from kayak to kayak. So the 13.5 is a whole lot more deck space, but it's also a bigger kayak at 13.5 foot. So we switched on the 13.5 to go to the Bonafide, stuff like that. But the stability was pretty comparable. I was really impressed. I was very impressed. The Bonafide, when you look at it, it doesn't look as stable as it really is. It's very, very, very stable. But I'll hopefully be doing that video soon. So you asked, stability or speed, what is my choice? I choose stability over speed because I'm not racing anybody, and I'm not in the sport of kayaking to get to places fast. I'm in the sport of kayaking to get to places that people can't go. So speed doesn't matter to me. So my 13.5 and my 11.5 even, all my lures I have from Feel Free, they're not the fastest kayak in the water. And if you fish rivers or if you fish recreational, all you do is paddle, it's not the best kayak for you. But if you're looking for something that's stable, that you can walk around on, that's very comfortable to stand up on, like it doesn't require a lot of core muscle to stand up on, then the Feel Free is awesome. So is the Bonafide. So it's one of those things where you just got to go into it knowing that you're slowing down with a wider kayak. And as long as you go into it knowing that, then you won't be disappointed. If you go into it thinking you're going to have the fastest kayak on the water and the most stable kayak on the water, then you're going to be disappointed because it doesn't work out that way. So, to go to my next topic, kind of based off that one, is I tell everybody this too. There's no kayak that is perfect. Not one brand makes a perfect kayak. Every brand makes good kayaks now. That's the cool thing about the way the sport's evolved, is that everybody has evolved, every brand. Even Sun Dolphin has a higher end kayak now, and it looks really cool. And, a lot of these brands are making very high end kayaks. So they're all comparable. They all have the pros and cons. They all have trade-offs. So when you get into a kayak, don't look at what everybody else is using. Don't look at what brand is the most popular or what brand you think will... I mean, don't look at the brand is all I'm trying to say, I guess. Look at the kayak and look at what fits you. So if you're the kind of person that never wants to stand up, then you need to look at a totally different kayak than what I would suggest for me, because what I do is I stand up all the time. So look at your needs. Look at if you're traveling a lot. Look where you're going to store the kayak. Look at what kind of bodies of water you fish most often. If you're a river fisherman, that's a very specific kayak will be better for you. So I never look at the brand, look at the kayak, and look at the angler. And that's what I tell everybody. There's no such thing as a perfect kayak. when I got a Pescador, it was fine, but quickly replaced. Now Pescador options more long term. Yeah, so that's the thing too. Is my first kayak was a Wilderness Riot. Which, if you guys Google that, you will see what that kayak looks like. And I never would have gotten, I never would have gotten into the sport if that's the kayak I stuck with. So it's a really cool story. That since we're doing a coffee talk here, then I'll tell you a really quick version of that. So I got a Wilderness Riot kayak about 12, 13 years ago. And, or maybe it was longer than that now. Crap. Maybe it was like 14 or 15 years ago. So it's a sit-on-top kayak. It was one of the first in the sit-on-top kayak realm. No fish holders, no seat. It was a piece of cloth that held your back up, and that was it. And at the time, it was a great kayak, and I paddled that thing all the time. I loved that kayak. It was all I knew of a kayak. I had a canoe, I had a kayak, I had a paddle boat, and then my mom and dad had a pontoon. So I knew the differences of a canoe and a paddle or a kayak, but I preferred the canoe because I had more room for fishing gear. So my kayak, I had no rod holders, I had no storage, I had nothing. And the canoe I could stand up in, which I liked doing even when I was a kid. And the pontoon, obviously, you could stand up in. So I always kayaked, but I never really got into fishing out of a kayak. So then a good friend of mine, guy I grew up with, we were like brothers and growing up. One of the first friends I had when I moved my freshman year of high school. So he was going to get into kayak fishing, and I was into bass boat still. I had a bass boat. I was dumping money every day into that boat, and it was the biggest money pit I've ever had. And I was at bass boat events all the time. It's all I did was bass boat stuff. Me and my wife did probably 5 days a week on the bass boat, and we traveled everywhere. We had a great time. So I was like, you know what? I kind of want to get into kayaks. Like I really think there's something I'm missing here, because boats are so limited to where you can fish and where you can go. Like in my area, there's like 25 lakes within 10 minutes of me. I'm surrounded by lakes, like surrounded. But all the bass boat events are on the same like 4 or 5 lakes. So it was the same lakes I was going on all the time. And I was like, oh, I wish I can go back there, but I can't with the bass boat. Or where's that canal go to? Oh, it's too shallow. I can't go back there with the bass boat. So I decided, you know what? My buddy's been telling me about how I should get into kayaking and I should go look at these and I want to go check them out. So I started doing some research. I was dead set on buying a Wilderness Attack. You couldn't change my mind. I was dead set. I spent months and months and months doing research, and that was the kayak that just spoke to me. Like I was told that I could stand up in it, I could walk around on it, it was stable, I could paddle it, it had storage. It was everything I thought I wanted in a kayak. So for about 7 or 8 months, I knew what I wanted. I was just trying to find the right place to get it. So at the time, Michigan wasn't that great of a spot to find kayaks. There was the most prominent dealer that was only kayaks was about 2 hours south of me, like on the Ohio border. So I went down there to go look at the Wilderness Attack that I knew I was going to buy. I spent months. And then my buddy, the same one I was talking about, he told me that there was a brand called Feel Free. And I was like, yeah, I've never heard of that. Everyone I know, or everyone I've looked online, everyone says Wilderness. So I want to look at Wilderness. And I was doing the same thing that I told you guys not to do, where I was listening to the brands. I was listening to what everybody else was using, and I didn't know anybody in the sport. Like, I knew 0 people. None of my friends were in the sport. I knew nobody. All I did was go on Facebook and start searching, and everything I saw on Facebook at the time was Wilderness. So I was like, man, I got to get a Wilderness. So I went and checked out the Feel Free, and within 30 seconds, I never even sat in the kayak. Within 30 seconds, I knew that was the kayak I was going to try out. And I figured if I didn't like it, I could sell it. Because it wasn't a cheap kayak. It was, $1,250 for my first kayak. It was not cheap by any means, but I was like, you know what? If I'm going to go into it, I'm going to buy my second kayak first. That way I don't have to upgrade. I can grow into it. I won't be limited. And that's what I learned with my Wilderness. My Wilderness Riot, I was limited. I couldn't stand up. I didn't have storage. I had no rod holders. I had nothing. And it made me not enjoy the sport or never really get into the sport. So I figured when I got my new kayak, I was going to go all in. I wanted to get the best one that I could find that fit me perfectly, that did everything I wanted to do, and things that I didn't even know I wanted yet. That way, as I grew in the sport, I would never be limited again. So I got the Feel Free. Within a couple days, my wife sat in my kayak, and she's like, I need the same one. I don't want a cheaper one. I don't want anything different. I want the same kayak. So we got her the 10-foot version. I got the 11.5. And within about 2 weeks, the bass boat was gone. I completely wiped my hands clean of the bass boat. I sold it as cheap as I could and got rid of it as fast as I could. It was kind of like a really big turning point where I just knew I was gonna go full in. I was gonna go 100% in the sport of kayak fishing, because the things that you can feel, if you've never been in a kayak, the things that you feel when you get on a kayak and catch your first fish, where you feel the fish pull your kayak, you're trying to scramble and grab your gear, you're trying to hold onto your rod, your paddle, like it's just like this crazy, like, beautiful moment. And when you do that for the first time and you're not addicted to the sport, then you might want to get back in a boat, because that's where it got me, is that first fish that I caught in the kayak, and my adrenaline was racing and I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I was going to fall out. Like, I didn't know how to hold on to everything. I could feel the fish wiggling. It was moving my whole kayak. I mean, it was incredible. It was one of the best experiences of my entire life, short of marrying my wife, obviously, but it was incredible. So that's what made me fall in love with the kayak that I got. So that doesn't mean that my kayak fits everybody. Going back to why I brought this up. And it doesn't mean it's perfect for everybody. It means that for the style that I have, for the size that I am, for the way I like to paddle and the places I like to fish, the Feel Free lure was the best kayak at the moment. And it's been amazing. I've tried almost every kayak out there. And there's a lot of kayaks that I like. There's a lot of kayaks that I would use in different situations. But overall, what I've used is the Feel Free lure, and it's been amazing. So, sorry about the rant, guys, but that's kind of what coffee talk is all about. So even though I have my notepad right here, I am not going off of a script or notes or anything. What anchoring systems do you use? So that's a cool topic, because I just spent a couple days last week with the guys that make the anchoring system I use. So I use an Anchor Wizard. So they have a new one coming out. It should be out in about 2 to 3 weeks. So be patient with them, because they're trying to make sure it's perfect, and any flaw they have, they want to fix before it gets on the market, which I think is incredibly smart of those guys. But it's a Michigan brand, and it's, yeah, exactly, it's a low profile. So the Anchor Wizard's been out for a while, but it's about this tall. The new low profile is made for a kayak, and it's about this tall. And it's amazing. So if you look at the video on my YouTube channel that's called How I Rig My Kayak, you can see the anchoring system I use. But I'll do a quick rundown of it. So I have an Anchor Wizard, which is like a winch system where I can reel my my anchor line in and let it out with one handle. It's super easy. It's one-hand operation, and it keeps all your line out of the way of your kayak. So I use that, and then that's mounted in the back. So here's my track right here. I'll say this is my track system next to my kayak. So I'm facing this way. It's right here. So I have the Anchor Wizard mounted right here. I have a stainless steel pulley mounted right here, so the anchor line goes into the pulley, so the tension point of the anchor line is on the pulley, not on the Anchor Wizard. And then I have that running through the Yak Gear Deluxe Anchor Trolley, which I actually have one, but it's way down there, and I'm not going to go get up. But the Yak Gear Deluxe Anchor Trolley is... I never knew how important it was until I put it on. I didn't know how bad I needed an anchor trolley until I put it on. But I have my anchor line running through the trolley, so I can set my anchor point to the front or back of the kayak, depending on the wind and depending on where I'm casting. Let me see if I can see where that comment went. Looks like the Gen 2 is way better for mounting options. So the Gen 2, the low profile, the mounting options are pretty similar to the first one. It's just a whole lot smaller and lighter, so it's a lot easier to manage. But also, they're making plates now. I think it's genius, and I'm incredibly excited to try out the new plates they're making. But they're making like really rigid plastic plates that you can mount, so you can mount different areas of your kayak, including I don't remember the exact technical name of it, but they have like a chute where your anchor actually goes in to like a sleeve, so it gets out of the water, which I don't have right now, but I need to find a way to use it. But they're making different mounting options for that as well. But yeah, check out Anchor Wizard, man. Those guys are awesome. They make some of the coolest products too, and you don't realize how bad you actually need an anchor system until you finally get one. Because I used a shallow anchor all year last year. That's all I used. I never used an actual anchor. When I put the Anchor Wizard on, I got rid of the shallow anchor because the Anchor Wizard is so easy and so quick that the shallow anchor, it took almost longer to get the shallow anchor out. Oh man, it's good coffee. Alright, so any other questions or topics you guys have, feel free to post them below. And we're about 60% down in the coffee. Chains or actual anchor. So that's another personal preference call. So I tried using chains. I noticed that for where I fish, they got snagged in rocks too much. I'm going to stop that topic for 1 second. So Mike Clark, the mug looks big. Because it is big, it's a double-sized mug. That's why, dude. So, boom. All my mugs, if you notice how big this one is, I use double-sized mugs because I make a double cup of coffee in each mug. So, joke's on you, buddy. I know that was a short joke, but guess what? I use big mugs. Single-size mugs I go through too quick because I like making a double cup of coffee and having 2 cups instead of 1. So, either way. So, drag chains. So, drag chains are awesome for a lot of applications. Where I fish mostly, there's rocky bottoms, there's cement slabs, like on points like this. There's crazy vegetation. So the chains get tangled up, get snagged. I had a huge problem with chains. So I had to cut 2 of them off before I stopped using them. The grappling anchor, same thing. A grappling anchor, I got stuck so many times and it was a pain. So I started doing something different this year, and I use a downrigger ball. So right now I use an 8-pound downrigger ball. So it's a perfect circle. It doesn't get stuck on anything. It drags. It's 8 pounds, so it doesn't really drag that easy. If I'm on a smooth surface, it'll still anchor me. If I'm on cement, rock, if I'm in vegetation, it pulls right out. I've had a really good experience with using a downrigger ball for now. I think moving to next year, I'm going to go down to a 6-pound instead of an 8-pound because the 8-pound is very effective, but it's very heavy when it's on the kayak. So I might switch to a 6-pounder for next year. But the downrigger ball has been the best anchor that I have used so far. The grappling anchor is awesome for a lot of applications. Like there's times where I kind of wish I had the grappling anchor. And there's times where I wish I had drag chains too, I guess. There's certain lakes that I'll fish where I was like, yeah, drag chains would be so much better. But I think the downrigger ball is kind of a good happy medium between the two. So that's what I use. So until the next question comes up, I'm going to tell you guys a couple of cool things that are coming up. So first thing, if you haven't noticed already, the new Bassquatch Hunter TV hats are in. There's 5 different models. Yes, I got rid of my shallow anchor, my stakeout pole. I got rid of that because my anchor system is easier to use and the shallow anchor was in the way sometimes. So if you fish places that your shallow anchor works for you really well and you don't fish deep water ever, then obviously that's a better choice than an anchor. But if you fish deep water, shallow water, you're always all over the place, kind of like I am, then the anchor is very universal. I can't use a shallow anchor in 10 feet of water, and I can't use a shallow anchor in 30 feet of water. So when I need to anchor deeper than 5 foot, then the anchor came in handy a whole lot more. But I can still use the anchor in 2 foot. So anywho, the Bassquatch Hunter TV hats are in. They're not on the website yet. I am actually almost completely out of stock out of all my shirts already, including this one right here. Yeah, well, this is the thing with doing like the coffee talk videos is that most people are at work right now, so I know it's not going to be a huge busy video. It's more of like a podcast style where I just get to talk about stuff. But I appreciate you guys jumping in though, and I appreciate the questions, and the interaction is why I want to do these videos. I'm gonna try to do these a couple times, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, because I have fun doing these too. And I might do some on Facebook Live and some on YouTube Live, but I really have a lot of fun doing these videos. Desk job, gotta support. Yeah. See, dude, I appreciate that, dude. Mike Clark, I know you're actually at work right now, and I appreciate you being on here and checking it out. Ever overturned, let me see who asked that. Ever overturned in 11.5 or 13.5. So, before I go into the rest of the stuff, really quick, I'm out of my shirts right now. I sold out of them really quickly, so I'm waiting for more shirts to come in. But I do have these new hats that'll be on the website soon, and I have all the other Bassquatch clothing hats that are still on the website that are available, including decals. So you can still check out BassquatchClothing.com and look at the hats. The shirts are out of stock, but these hats will be on there soon too. So anyway, so yes, have I turned over my 11.5 or 13.5? So here's the two quick, I'll give you the quick versions. The 13.5 I've never turned over. I've never fell out of it. I've never turned over. The 13.5 is, it's very, very, very hard to flip that thing over. So was the 11.5. The first 2 weeks that I had my 11.5, I got really, really, really confident because I was not used to standing up on a kayak. So the fact that I could stand up, not just stand still, but I could walk around on the kayak. I could walk around on the front of it while I was on the water. I could stand on the bow. I could stand on the seat while the seat was lifted up all the way. I was so confident with the stability of this thing. I got, like, mentally, I was like, oh, it's my bass boat. Like, I'm still in my bass boat platform. So I didn't treat it any differently. What I forgot to keep in mind, now this is the second week that I had my first 11.5. So the first time I had a feel free, the first time I had a stable fishing kayak, 2 weeks into it, I forget that my deck is only 36 inches wide, not like my bass boat, and that I have other things on my deck, like anchor line. So before I had my anchor system, I had a shallow anchor that I made out of like a tree stake, I think it was, and I had like 15 feet of line attached to it, and it was all over the deck of my boat. So I was standing up, I was casting, and I went to take a step backwards towards my seat, and my foot got tangled in my line, and I fell straight back overboard. I lost the rod that was in my hand, and I lost my phone. That's before I realized that you need to prepare for the swim, not the paddle, so everything has to be waterproof and protected and have a leash on everything, or make sure everything floats, and, you know, all these things. So I threw the rod that was in my hand. My phone was in my pocket, so I lost my phone. So I go back to, I was by my mom and dad's house on the lake that I grew up on, so I paddle back to their house. I get their paddle boat. I am dragging a bare hook, trying to get my pole out of the water. I finally caught it, which is amazing. I pulled it out of the water. I was all excited. I saved my rod and reel. I got it back. I put the rod in the rod holder in the paddle boat, and threw a cast and snagged the other pole, snapped that pole that was in the rod holder, right at the handle and at the tip, broke it in 2 spots. It fell in the water. I quit fishing for like 2 days. So that was the first time I fell out of my kayak. So then fast forward to maybe a month later. So this is April in Michigan. We had a huge hailstorm. It was 30 degrees outside. We had like 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts. It was terrible, terrible weather. So my first time ever being in a kayak with wind and waves. And I was scared, I'm not going to lie. So I was sitting really low in the kayak. Like I was ducking down like this. I was holding the sides of the kayak. And I was like, I'm going to flip. This is insane. Like, I don't know how people are paddling in this stuff. And we were in the middle of a tournament. It was my first like bigger tournament that I was ever in kayak fishing. So I was nervous. I didn't know anybody there. It was like a perfect storm of things happening wrong. So I didn't catch a fish for like 5 hours because it was hailing, it was wind, it was waves, and I was more concerned about staying on my kayak than I was about fishing. So either way, I'm throwing a chatterbait actually, and I finally hook onto a fish, and it turned my kayak sideways when the fish grabbed. It turned my kayak like this, so I was sideways facing the wind and the waves. So I had a wave, so here's my kayak. I had a wave go underneath, lift me up. The wind went underneath like this. me not knowing any better at the time, I had my seat all the way up in the highest position it could go in, which in a feel free is very high. It's 10 inches, which is higher than any other seat goes. So I was 10 inches off my deck in a seat with my kayak on an angle with the wind going 35 miles an hour underneath it. So needless to say, my kayak flipped like this very, very quickly. I didn't even have time to react. It was a quick slam in the water like this. So I lost 4 fishing rods. I lost my fish finder battery ripped out of my sonar pod. From the impact, everything broke. I lost all my tackle. I lost everything that was on my kayak pretty much. 2 rods survived, and one of them was stuck in my rod holder in my crate still somehow. Like when I flipped it back over, it was still in my rod holder, which was amazing. The other one was in my hand. So I lost almost everything in my kayak, and I was wearing sweatpants and boots and a hooded sweatshirt and a face mask and a beanie and all this winter gear. So I had a really hard time swimming because I wasn't prepared to swim, so it caught me off guard. And I was also about 100 pounds heavier, and I was stuck in a big weed bed too. So luckily I was wearing my life jacket like I always do, and if I wasn't wearing a life jacket, I honestly don't know if I'd be here today because nobody could hear me scream even. It was so loud with the wind and the hail. I even blew my whistle trying to get help, and nobody could hear me. So either way, I flipped my kayak back over. I paddled all the way back on the shore. I had icicles in my face by the time I got to shore. I had to cover myself in blankets and sit in my trailer for a couple hours and warm up, and went back on the water, caught some fish finally, and that was it. So yes, I have fell out of my kayak, and yes, I have flipped my kayak. So since then, though, I've been in way worse storms, way worse wind and waves, and I've never flipped again. Because when you flip, I think everybody should flip. I suggest you do it on purpose so you're not injured or hurt or anything. But go out with a group of people and dress to swim, and make sure your kayak is empty, and lean all the way over until your kayak flips. That way you know where your tipping point is. It's a really good thing to know. That way you know what it feels like when your kayak loses that tipping point, and you also realize that a lot of times in a wider kayak, you'll fall out of it before the kayak actually flips. So like the Feel Free lure, you can actually roll out of it and pull yourself back up the side of it without it even flipping over. If you do it in 30-mile-an-hour wind that gets underneath the kayak, obviously you'll flip the kayak too. But in calm conditions, your kayak won't flip. You'll fall out way before you can flip. So you should definitely try it though. Fall out your kayak, flip it over. That way you know how to flip it back over, because that was the hardest part for me, is I couldn't figure out how to flip it back over. I'm now getting asked to work coffee talk later. Thanks for joining the video, man. I appreciate it. Thoughts on the overdrive. That's a good one. Coffee's almost gone, so this might be the last topic. So, thoughts on the overdrive. So, Feel Free has the new overdrive pedal and motor system coming out. It should be out in within about 2 weeks. Knock on wood. So they've had a few setbacks because they're trying to make sure everything's perfect, or as perfect as it can be, because nobody wants to hit the market with a product that could possibly have a bug or issues. Not saying that it won't, because any new product has its learning curve and its learning steps that it has to go through. Plus, everybody here knows that we're going to beat those things up, and we're going to put them to the limits. We're going to do stupid things with them, like run them into shore. So we're going to cause damage to them anyway. So the guys at Feel Free are incredible dudes. Their team behind the overdrive are amazing guys, and they're trying to make sure they can foresee most of the problems. So it's been taking a little bit longer to come out. So I got to see this thing and touch it and feel it at ICAST, and I also got to touch it and feel it and play with it a lot at the Paddle Sports last week. I was attached to that thing, trust me. It's an incredible piece of machinery. So my thoughts of the overdrive are, it is the most advanced pedal system that we have seen in the kayak world. So no other brand in the kayak world has done what Feel Free has done with the overdrive. There's some great pedal drives out there, and everybody is advancing into the pedal drive market, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of cool things to come even. But the overdrive is the first one that actually has the pedal option and electric option built into the same unit. You don't need to pull the pedals out to put the motor in. It's all included into one unit. So you can disengage the motor and pedal. You can engage the motor and use the motor with your remote. and it has an amperage control. You have a screen on the front of it that tells you your battery life, your amperage that you're pulling. This thing is so cool. It looks like something you'd see from like Transformers. So like the design alone, you can just see the design and know that a lot went into this design. This is not something they did overnight. It's not something they did in the last year. This is something they've been working on for years, and they've been researching and developing over and over to make the most perfect product they possibly can. Not that it's going to be 100% perfect, because nothing is, but it's going to be a very good display of what Feel Free has to offer as far as engineering, design, and quality. And I'm really excited to put one in the kayak. So I'm going to be putting one into my Feel Free lure, which they retrofit into all the 2016 and 17 existing Feel Free lures. So if you have a sonar pod in your 11.5 or 13.5, this will be able to retrofit into your existing kayak. So this is also the first company to do that, where if you already have a kayak that wasn't made for pedals, you can now drop this into your kayak. And going into this, yes, there is a new kayak design as well. So he just asked if there's a new kayak being designed. So what's cool about it is you can retrofit this pedal drive into your existing lure, or in next season, in spring, so it'll be out early next year, there's the new Dorado, which is the best looking kayak I've ever seen in my entire life. And this is not a biased opinion. This is not because I work with Feel Free. This is because I am a huge fan of the sport of kayak fishing, and I don't care what brand came out with this kayak, I would say the same thing. This kayak is incredible. The new Dorado comes out from Feel Free next year, which is designed for the pedal drive. And the coolest thing is you don't need to use the pedal drive. You can paddle this kayak. So certain kayaks you can't paddle because they're made for pedals. This one is made for pedals, and it's a very good paddling kayak. It is... look at some of my videos. I did a lot of videos of the Dorado. It's amazing. The Dorado is 38 inches wide. It has a rail system, it has inside storage, it has pre-wired navigational lights, pre-wired interior lights, has a built-in pre-wired battery box, has a... oh gee, this thing is just so cool. It has a catamaran hull design, so it's super, super stable, but it's also faster in the water than you would ever expect from a kayak that wide. It's got the rudder system built in, just like the Lure series. It's amazing. Just look it up online. There's so many videos of the Dorado online. What's the price point? So don't quote me 100% on the price point, because I don't remember. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like saying things that I don't know are 100% true. The Dorado with the pedal drive, I'm almost positive it's $29.99. That's, I think, without the electric. That's just with the pedal drive. So it's a 12.5 foot kayak, 38 inches wide, with storage options that you've never seen in a kayak before. And I'm 99.9% sure that the price point is $29.99 with the pedal drive. That's with the pedal drive, that's with the rudder, that's with everything you need. I'm also going to go ahead and take a shot in the dark on the overdrive price by itself. I think the pedals by themselves are $9.99. So also you could Google that, because the prices are all over the place online. You can also go on YouTube and look at the Feel Free Overdrive, I guess, and you'll be able to see it too. It's either, because I remember it was $7.99, but then if you add the other side, I think it's $9.99 for the pedals, and then I think the motor separately is $1,200. I'm 99% sure. I know I should know these things, but I didn't look those up to double check, so I don't want to say something that could be wrong without telling you it could be wrong. But either way, you'll be able to get into a lure with the pedals and motor for around... Actually, I know I can say this part. So you can get into a Feel Free Dorado fully decked out and loaded for less than the price of a Hobie Pro Angler 14. You can also get into a Feel Free Lure 11.5 with the pedals, rudder, the motor, everything for less than a Hobie PA 14. I know that's true. I just don't remember the exact numbers. Not saying that the Hobie PA is a bad boat, obviously. It's definitely an amazing boat, and it has its uses, and it has the people that it fits perfectly. Again, for me, the PA didn't fit me perfectly, or else I would be in a Hobie PA. Although they are awesome boats. They're a lot of fun to fish out of, and I have no problem with Hobie guys. But either way, I got like 2 sips of coffee left. To cap that topic off, the overdrive is incredible, and I can't wait for it to come out, and I will definitely be having one on my boat. I'll have one on my lure this year, and then I'll have the Dorado next year. So I will be selling my 13.5 sometime between now and next year, so I can make room in my trailer for the Dorado, because the Dorado is going to be my go-to all-around kayak, for paddles, for pedaling, for motor, for everything. And then my 11.5s will be my smaller rivers and smaller lake paddle-only kayak. So if you guys are interested in buying a somewhat used, I mean, I use the kayak a lot, so if you guys are interested in buying a used 13.5, stay tuned on my Facebook, because sometime between now and the next 6 months it'll be up for sale. But I do use kayaks a lot. I'm 5 to 6 days a week on the water, so it's not brand new. So, any other questions or any other topics? Before I finish my last sip of coffee here, so just to give you guys a heads up what's in the store, and then we'll cap this video off. In about a week and a half, I'm going to be doing another trip down to, I don't know if it's Southern Ohio. I'm going to call it Southern Ohio. But I think it's just south of Columbus. So I'm going down to Southern Ohio to do a muskie trip with a great dude. He's a record-holding muskie fisherman down there, and he's going to take me, my wife, and my good buddy Chris Burkhart, and we're going to go do a awesome, like, I cannot wait to do this trip. We're going to do a full targeted muskie trip. So we'll have a lot of footage, a lot of film. We're going to make a really cool video. I hope, knock on wood again, that the weather cooperates with us and stuff, and obviously that we catch some good muskies so the video is more exciting. But we're going to do an awesome, fully targeted muskie trip in about a week and a half. And I am so excited for this trip because I've never targeted muskie specifically. I've caught muskie. I've never targeted them, though. So I'm going there with the right gear, with the right bait, and we won't be catching other fish on accident. It'll be, if we get anything, it's going to be muskie and pike, and that's it. That's all we're fishing for. It's all we're geared up for. We're going to be using some 7'3" heavy rods from FX Rods. We're going to be using some I have these huge 8-inch paddle tails made out of Elastec, so you can stretch them, and the muskie, you can't tear them up as easy. Huge paddle tail baits that I'm using from Z-Man. And then we're using 40-pound braid. We're using 100-pound fluoro leaders. I mean, this is going to be an awesome trip. So we're going to be fully set up for muskie and hopefully land some really nice-sized muskie and have a good time. And it'll be fun. And I get to have my wife in the video, which I'm really excited about because it's so hard to get her in videos. So we're doing that trip in about a week and a half. And then I am in the process of planning my November. So I'm trying to plan November way ahead of time because November I'm trying to hit a bunch of spots. I'm trying to hit like 3 or 4 different states in November. Because November is the month that fishing is pretty much done in Michigan because the weather drops so low. Sometimes we have snow and ice by early November. Depends on what happens in Michigan. So November is when I plan on traveling down south. I'm going to try to hit 4 or 5 states in November. Hopefully I'll be down in Florida sometime October, November. And then, I meant December, January. I'm hoping to be able to hit Florida. And then February and March, I'll be down south again, probably Tennessee. And then, of course, in March, I'll be in Tennessee for the KBF National Championship. And it's going to be amazing. It's a $100,000 prize. So if you are into kayak fishing, or if you're into fishing at all, get your butt in a kayak and try to qualify. You have to qualify for the national championship through trail events, through online challenges, other events in your area. Go on the website, find a way to qualify, because if you can get to the KBF National Championship, it's a $100,000 minimum first place prize. That's amazing. So I'm going down there to film the event. I'm going to be all over the place filming everybody and having a good time. And I'll be doing that in March. So either way, a lot of cool stuff coming on the channel. And I'm looking at my board right now. I have about 7 videos that I'm working on right now. 3 that I haven't filmed yet, and 3 that I haven't edited yet. I finished 1 last night. So that's what I'm doing today, is working on my other 2 or 3 I'm trying to knock out today. So stay tuned on the channel. There'll be some cool stuff coming at you. And if you have any other questions, feel free to post them on this video afterwards, after it's live, and I will go back and answer them as fast as I can. Or if I don't know the answer, then I will do the research. I'll get the answer or tell you where to get the answer and make sure you have the right information. So appreciate everybody hanging out. Last sip of coffee. 2 sips left. Hold on. Coffee's gone. That's why I use the big mugs that hold 2 cups of coffee, so I can make this video last 45 minutes. So make sure you guys check out the rest of the channel. Go through and watch some of my experience videos. I do 1 experience video a month, which is where I go out and try to show everybody the experience of kayak fishing and why I love doing it and some of the cool spots you can get to. A lot of them are me traveling to those spots too, as far as like the New York experience video. In upstate New York is one of my favorites that I've done so far. So is the Hidden Lake in the Woods video. Those 2 are awesome videos. So if you haven't seen those, go through and watch those. And then obviously some of the product videos that I love doing, the product videos too. And there's a vlog that I did of me and my wife driving to New York that that I really liked a lot. I had such a good time filming with my wife, and I'm hoping to get her in more videos because she is my fishing partner, my traveling partner, and I have so much fun with her. So check that out too, and make sure you subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, then share the channel, share some of the videos on your pages, and let's get some more subscribers. I really want to hit 2,000 subscribers before the fall season if possible. So I appreciate all the support, all the help. And also check out BassquatchClothing.com. You can see some of the apparel. And that's pretty much it. And go to Bassquatch Hunter TV and shoot it a thumbs up as well. But shoot this video a thumbs up and share this video. And if you have any other comments, post it below. Rich P, you enjoy your day too, sir. And all of you guys enjoy your day. Thank you for interrupting your work morning and watching this 45-minute video of me drinking coffee and talking. So talk to you guys soon, and I will see you on the water.